And shall we do conversation?
No, but I mean, from my history of knowing that core group, it's weird.
All right, thank you.
All right, one sec, sorry. Recording, testing, sorry.
This is delicious.
Recording, testing, okay, we're good.
Thank you, everyone, for joining the January meeting of the Ward 8 Neighborhood Planning Assembly. We'll begin quite briefly with introductions. And that's for all in the room who would like to participate, but as the sole Ward 8 member and Ward 8 steering committee member, I am Ryan Nick. My pronouns are he, him.
Hi, my name is Milo Grant. Happy to be here this evening. I am the Central District City Council member. I am now in Ward 2, used to be Ward 3, and my pronouns are she, her.
Hi, my name is Karen Long, and I'm actually a Ward 1 resident. I came to see what was happening here because we used to be a joined group, and I miss Ward 8. We have a lot of the same issues, so thanks. Yeah.
Appreciate you for coming.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Fosca. I use she, her pronouns. I work for the city of Burlington for CEDO. I'm the NPA public engagement specialist. So I'm at all these meetings and I live in Ward 2.
Thank you, everyone. Public forum. Anyone? Seeing none, I think we can get to the main topic of our agenda, the public safety discussion with Councilor Grant.
Sure, but you do have some juicy things here about Town Meeting Day.
Oh, yes. Well, so I guess for the people viewing this meeting after the fact, Town Meeting Day is coming up on March 5th. The ballots will be mailed out on Valentine's Day, the 14th. You will have to request your presidential primary ballot if you want to vote by mail, but you can always show up in person on the 5th. Also, so there are new wards, so please check your to see if you've been redistricted. Thank you for the reminder.
You're very welcome. That's really important because after 20 years, I'm going to be voting in a different place. And so a lot of people aren't, it's not only just a change of ward, it's a change of where you're actually going to vote. So it's worth it for people to take a peek.
But the 8 polling locations are still the same. You just got rewarded into 2, right?
Correct. I think they were the same. I think they're
like it's still integrated arts and the sustainability. Thank you. Okay. Cool.
So, but
yeah, please.
I do have kind of a, if I can, are you doing speak out now? Is that
public comment? Yeah, please.
Okay. So another reason that I did come is that I'm really interested in the MOU, which affects Ward 1 and Ward 8 really dramatically. And then I'm trying to learn more about the neighborhood code. The boundaries, just that whole change. And so, because, we used to be a combined NPA, we all shared a lot of the same things, but I do think I went to the Fletcher Library meeting and the whole sentiment of the group was that we need a stronger MOU. It needs to be longer than for 5 years, and that we are concerned about the housing. Housing should be designated for also upperclassmen, not just if they get zoning changes, it should not just be for freshmen and sophomore. And just mainly, it's just which is maybe why you have a lower turnout when you are in a neighborhood and people are coming and going each year, then they're not as committed into the community. And I really think we should protect our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Like that. So anyway, that is something that I think we should all really jump in on the MOU and the neighborhood code, and try to, I've lived in my home for 40 years and it's a great location for when I retire and maybe don't feel that comfortable driving anymore, because I can still walk downtown. I walked to the meeting tonight and I don't want to see my neighborhood outpriced because people are buying the houses and chopping them up. So it's just a really big issue that's been going on for, a long time, but it's happening again right now. So
yeah, housing is been impossible lately, so.
Right, exactly.
Well-
So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And actually, just a curiosity question. Can the upperclassmen thing, like, is that within, like, can the city put that in the MOU or like?
Yes, well,
Have
Like,
new conversation.
yeah, sorry, that's not, that was more just
Yeah.
for my own personal curiosity.
I wasn't present, but I was, I zoomed in
okay.
on that meeting and then I went to Ward 1 and then we had an initial. So if you have anything else to say, I can, before we dive into public safety.
Are you all
I
set
can-
or?
No,
For
I
that
just
moment.
think that, I think the issue about the upperclassmen is that on the table was more housing for freshmen and that freshman class has
Sure.
really gotten huge.
Mhm.
So in 1 year, those sophomores are gonna need housing, and in 2 years, those brand new freshmen, if we keep increasing class size.
Yeah, they gotta go
So
somewhere.
They have to go somewhere,
Yeah.
so there was some estimate of like 600 people, that's maybe 300 houses, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
if there's 3 in a house or
Sure.
4 in a house, whatever, but we are losing, I mean, it's really hard to buy houses in Burlington
Yeah.
and compete, and it's hard to rent and compete with the students that have their families in wealthier states. And to the parents, they can pay those rents, but if
Yeah.
you're working in Burlington, you can't necessarily compete
Yeah.
with those rents. So I think that's the big issue with providing more housing, keeping the numbers, at bay, and having some of the housing be for upperclassmen so
Yeah.
that we are not just bringing in more freshmen, and then in 2 years, those freshmen have to live somewhere, so they're
Vacancy
gonna.
rate's already at 0.
It's-
You can't really go down from there.
Exactly. So anyway, I think it's a big.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you.
So. There was the situation where the last MOU with the University of Vermont expired. There was no action for a while. Then, they wanted the zoning update on Trinity campus so they could
Sure.
have more dorms up there. And then there was, this was right before my time on the council, but there was a meeting to discuss that. And the bottom line was, since they were not willing to discuss a new MOU, why grant that housing? And then UVM says, well, we're not gonna build more housing if we can't have the zoning. And it became like kind of at a standstill.
Mhm.
We're not gonna give you zoning if we can't have it. So then there was no discussions for a while. Then the discussion started up again. And there was there were meetings that city councilors were allowed to attend with the representatives of the University of Vermont. And then there was all this other, I call it backroom. I feel sometimes in the city, there's a lot of backroom dealings. There's an idea that I do understand initially, that you don't necessarily want to be having the public negotiate for you, right? But I do believe it would have been helpful to start, I feel like they've gone backwards. We were able to have discussions behind closed doors. There were more discussions that didn't involve the city councilors, but between the mayor and the university and the representatives of the city. Then they come out with the MOU and they come out and they say, this is all you're gonna get. I mean, that's what his press release said. Anybody can read his press release. It's like this, they're going as far as they can go. They're at a public meeting where people are seeing the MOU for the first time and they're like, yeah, this is all we want to do. And now you want to ask the public how they feel about it? It's backwards to me.
Yeah.
You should have asked first, so you had a real understanding of how the public was feeling.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. So now they're hearing how the public is feeling and the Ward 1 NPA. And then at that meeting last week, people are upset. I feel very strongly, I will not vote for anything that's just 5 years. For me, it has to be at least 10 years. And the reason for that is they're asking for a lot now, because it's not just Trinity. It's up by the Waterman area,
Yeah.
up by the rugby field, and I believe one more. So it's multiple properties. Depending on how the buildings are set up and configured, it could be 1,500 to 1,800 rooms. And that sounds great,
Yeah,
right? But it doesn't mean anything if there isn't a promise to control the enrollment.
Exactly.
And I want the definition of a new bed, because it sounds great, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll do 1.5 new beds, and like it's other. Now, I want to know that a new bed's not another forced triple. Oh, well, we won't do that. Well, then write it down.
Yeah.
Right. Write it down. That's a problem for me.
I was not at UVM, but I was at a forced triple my freshman year. And it was a real treat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some people want to be in triples. There's always been people willing to be in triples to save that money.
Yeah.
Right, but they 30% are in triples. And sometimes they don't even get 3 sets of furniture.
Yeah.
I've talked to young people living in this situation. They got the 3 beds, but only 2 desks and 2 wardrobes.
Mhm.
And it's not for a young person, there's privacy issues. Not everybody's on the same schedule. Can you get sleep? It's not a good thing.
Having
And
flashbacks to my freshman year.
yeah, flashbacks, yeah. So
That's what people spoke at that meeting, the library
spoke.
meeting. It was intense.
it
Yeah.
was intense. Oh, something else came out. We'll get to that in a minute. But when you think about the city code, the city code has requirements about how much space a person is supposed to have to
Oh,
live
yeah,
in.
sure.
Minimum housing.
Yeah.
University's in violation of the code, and apparently we just look the other way. So that's an issue, right? So you
Yeah.
have 30%, you got young people in this situation. No wonder they can't wait to get off campus,
Yeah.
right? Now, the good ideas that they have is that they understand that the type of housing they need to build needs to be apartment style. They've got that.
Yeah.
They know that that's what people are going to want to prefer to be in. They are already, like, I think they had a deal with St. Mike's Housing for graduate students, because the other part is people do want to know about upperclassmen and graduate students, because UVM wants to be a top tier research university. They have talked about this publicly. And in order to do that, they're going to need to bring in graduate students. Someone works for UVM. I know that they're going to be working on bringing in international students. This is their goal. So I feel that the negotiator, he's not, he made a statement at a city council meeting that, something like 100 or so would be inconsequential. And I said to him, the fact that you would say that and you don't understand, given our market, it is consequential, is a problem for me. I don't have any power to get them to change their negotiator, but I think it's someone who doesn't really understand what's going on in the city. But the 5 years, the last thing else, 2 more things I'll say, going back to the 5 years, given the number of changes that they want to make, those buildings, it's going to take time to get them up.
Yeah.
So the
They're
5
not gonna pop up
years will be
tomorrow.
gone. Right. And then we won't get anything. Like, even the information that they're actually offering to give us access to the same information they provide government with regards to the number of students they have. That's great. But then after 5 years, they'll stop doing that because they haven't been forthcoming with that. They have a pattern of behavior that we really need to be concerned about. The other thing that came out was that the state's auditor is doing some research, wants to do a report on the effects of the number of UVM students and how it's affecting the Burlington housing market. So we should certainly not be having any kind of vote until that's done. And when did the city know about it? And why weren't city councilors told? And shout out to Troy Hedrick. He has been all over this. And it's important because things are not being as transparent as they should be. So that people should read the MOU. It's available under the city council minutes, and we can talk quickly about how to get to those. But
I don't know if they can, if they're willing to change. I don't think they want to change it. I don't think that they like the feedback they're getting, but then again, they did the process backwards. They didn't come to the community first, say, what are your biggest concerns? And take that into consideration. But if we go to the city's website, could we do that just for a quick show and tell?
Real quick, the state auditor study, do you have any idea how long that would take, or if it started tomorrow?
Oh, no, it's been going on. It's
Oh,
been
it's
going on,
ongoing.
yes.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
currently going on. Yeah, yeah,
it
no,
was
so
very heated
There's something.
at the meeting
it's
because
really needed to be.
Oh, Jesus.
on December 12th, our city person, from maybe CETO, I don't know, Brian Pine and Megan Tuttle were the two
Sure.
city representatives, and then Richard Kate. They got this information, but I don't know when the council exactly got it, but it was after the holidays.
So to be clear, the council has never been formally told.
Okay, well, so this is this information was not shared with the council. I mean, I had heard the excuses about the holidays and stuff from the city,
This and that.
why, why they hadn't done it, but I wrote Troy this morning and I asked him, when did the council actually get notified? Because everybody in that meeting at the library felt that it would be ridiculous to have the council vote until that report is done.
Yeah,
It's like, it's in process, and really on the 12th, it was when the city was asked to fill out their part. I mean, they were trying to collect, the UVM had to collect theirs, so I did ask at the meeting, how I get all that, but it just, again, we really got our first MOU, if you talk to Erhard Manke, over a zoning thing. Like, that's our only power with UVM. So we can't give this away without getting something back. We
Yeah.
can't give away the zoning. And Erhard has said before that the very first MOU was over some zoning thing that UVM wanted. I mean, they have to want something from us to give us something.
sure.
Right.
So
And
if
then-
we just give it to them,
Yeah.
then we'll get nothing.
Yeah,
That's so on point. Council Hightower was like, they want everything and we get nothing.
Right.
Because the 5 years will go right by, and then whatever little things they have negotiated for. And respect to Councilor Doherty, but we were going at it at the Ward 1 NPA. He's like, you would turn down 15 to 1,800 beds. I'm like, yes, I would, if I don't know what the student enrollment is, if I don't know how many grad students are gonna be
Right.
coming in. I don't look at this as being a good deal. We're getting so little for it, and God bless him, he's a lawyer. He's like, well, if I had a client and my client asked me, would we be able to get any more? Would we risk losing?
We
We
will
would be where
lose.
we would be where we are,
Mhm.
right? We really can't be much more off.
Right.
Than the situation, and that's how I feel about it. But yeah, we've never been officially notified. and it
Interesting.
was-
Okay,
yeah,
I'm-
you
I'm
should
going to do
watch
that.
that.
All right.
meeting.
All right.
Should watch
Brian
that
and
meeting.
Meg.
I should email them too. But I mean, I understand the first person being notified after that request would be the mayor. That makes sense to me.
Order of operations.
This was on December 12th. Well, this is January 24th.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they've had enough
So-
time, certainly before the meeting last week,
Mhm.
to say something. And I don't know how many other people know. With everything going on, I mean, we had I myself had 450 emails just on the meeting.
Yeah, sure.
It's been
Yeah.
really difficult. But yeah, do you guys have any other questions about that? I
No,
think that's
but I'm glad.
a good
to
summary,
hear
but
that.
I think a lot of Burlingtonians really need to be aware of what's going on. They
Yeah.
really do, because our market is so tight.
Yeah,
And
I guess my only question about the timeline was just that it seems these things move at this glacial pace. And that the study seems important. It'd be good to know the impact of
Absolutely.
students, but also if it's gonna take a year, or is that we're just gonna wait a year for this next step to happen,
We've
or?
been 4 years without an MOU.
No, yeah, like I get that,
Let's
just,
wait
yeah,
A
yeah.
little bit longer.
Right, right. And-
Seems-
But like when the housing market's at zero,
Right.
like, is this gonna, we're gonna build 1,500 new beds that are gonna be 1,500 new people in the market in 3 years. Sure, but then, let's build 1,500 more houses in downtown Burlington. Let's
Right.
not limit growth. Let's find a way to grow within the character of a neighborhood.
Right.
Right, because, part of the concern too with UVM and having the extra beds is they gotta get away from that 30% triples, forced triples.
Yeah, yeah.
They need to do that. They've made that the norm. And they, someone told me that they're trying to get people to stop using that term. I'm like, it is what it is.
Yeah, you can call it by a different name,
You
but
can
it's,
call it,
yeah.
but it is what it is. So we have the
Anyway.
city's website up. I just want to do a quick show and tell because there's been some market improvement on what's called City Clerk, which is the area that you go to find out information about city meetings and all the different documents and such. The homepage have the links, rental and property info, and then calendar. And that's always where you start, is with calendar. Now, a big improvement that they have done is the calendar actually now looks like a real calendar.
Ain't that something?
Before you had to scroll all the way up. It was terrible. There were improvements over the previous software used, which was called Board Docs. But this is much better. So you can see at the top, where in January 24, you can go to the left and click on previous month to get to December. And then you kind of scroll down a little bit and you can see all the meetings that had occurred. And you would be able to, let's see if we can choose one. Let's see. Do we have one of the city council meetings in December?
Oh, there's one on the 18th right there.
Oh, in the 18th. Yes, thank you. So city council meetings are usually Monday nights. Unless there's a holiday, then they'll be on a Tuesday. And if you click on meeting overview, so the first thing that's great is when you click on the actual meeting, you are taken to the meeting. Before, you had to search for the meeting and you would click on it, but you would end up in the area of the meeting and you still had to do more scrolling. This is much faster now, much more efficient. And when you click on meeting overview, you get to see all the attachments related. And this particular meeting, and this is December 18th, this has the UVM MOU presentation. So this has the documents attached that were related to the MOU. And then can you click on meeting media right under meeting overview? Okay, so one of the things we need to catch up on is that the meeting needs to be linked there. And I've been working on that. So for some of the meetings, they are linked. For some meetings, they're not. But that's one of the things they need to be catched up on. Otherwise, you go to our friends at Town Meeting TV and you're able to search for the meeting. You can go to their YouTube page or you can go directly to Town Meeting TV's website to search for it. But as you scroll down, you see the schedule and the public forum, and this particular meeting didn't have a consent agenda. Oh, yes, it did. There it is. The consent agenda is a very interesting place. It's not something that's talked about in meetings other than it being, okay, it's part of the agenda. There's a motion to adopt the consent agenda, and if it's amended, adopt the consent agenda as it is amended. There's a second and everyone votes to accept the consent agenda. So you can miss a lot of information if you, as a member of the public, is not looking at this document. Since I became a city councilor and look at all the stuff that's in the consent agenda, I'm pretty much convinced that if we go back and look at ancient consent agendas, we could probably find some items on Burlington Telecom. Because if we're going to be spending money, it's going to be talked about in the Board of Finance. And there's a lot of things that go through the Board of Finance meetings
which is another great meeting to watch, then the items get put on the consent agenda. So you'll see things related to city contracts and city expenditures. There's things in the city that are controversial, but there's a lot of things in the city that do work. They do work. You know, we can take our showers in the morning, we can flush our toilets, we
The lights
can,
turn
the
on.
lights turn on, the traffic lights work. There's a lot of things that work, and there's a lot of contracts and work and money and all behind the scenes, and all this stuff can be under the consent agenda, as we can see. So that's the way you can get to a typical city council meeting, see all the documents, and I'm going to work on that. That's the next piece, is get that meeting media in there, so that you can just go to one piece, and then the meeting media can just link to the Town Meeting TV meeting. So I just want to make that known, because I find very often that in our city, people are just not informed. And you do have to be an active resident. You have to be an active participant in government. And that means that some way, somehow, you have to make the time. Maybe you follow a commission that you're interested in. Maybe you follow a committee that you're interested in. Maybe you don't watch an entire city council meeting, but you take a stroll through the consent agenda. You look at the minutes of the city council meeting to see what was discussed. And then maybe you're like, okay, maybe I'll watch that part of the meeting. But I do have a grave concern that a lot of people are victim to misinformation, because they're not doing enough to make themselves aware of things. And that leads us to public safety, because there's a ton of misinformation about public safety. Where to start? So my background is, after the use of force lawsuits were filed with the city, I became kind of activated. I was very concerned what happened to the Millie brothers and Mr. Jock. And, you know, my own kid, young Black man at the time, I'm like, could this happen to him? And I applied to be on the special committee to review policing policies. And then I applied to be on the police commission. And then I ran for city council. So I've been living, breathing, as a counselor, I'm involved in a lot of things now, but I've been living, breathing public safety for a few years now. So what can I tell you? The first thing I want to tell you is that we have to be very real and honest about what we can expect from our police department. There are things that, even if fully staffed, people should not expect police to be involved in or prevent. Now, some examples are, as we all know, we came out of this pandemic, and we've seen crimes occurring at a volume that we've never seen before. Stolen cars, for example. You can have a fully staffed police department. They cannot be standing next to every unlocked car door. They cannot be standing next to every car that's left running with keys in it. For a variety of reasons, people are stealing cars, and they're stealing cars in record numbers, not just in Burlington, South Burlington, and in other towns. If you, last winter, over and over again, could be, last winter was colder than this winter's been, but people would get out, you warm up your car, not supposed to have it idling, but if it's cold out, people are doing it. That's just the way it is. So you go back into your house, you come back, your car's gone because you left it running. You pull up to Cumbies or Maple Fields, you want to get some coffee, you leave your keys in the car, you leave it running, you come back, it's gone. So this concept of not locking your car door, the concept of not making sure, like, you don't leave your keys in it, you don't leave valuables, you don't leave wallets, you don't leave important documents, you don't leave computers, you don't leave guns in your car. You're killing me, literally. Don't leave guns in your car. there would be guns stolen out of cars that are then involved in crime, where an owner, he didn't report it. It was registered to him, so they came back to him like, why didn't you report it? I was embarrassed. I'm like, people, this is, and I know people feel like, oh, this is Vermont, this is Burlington, and it's never been this way, and it's like, well, this is what we're going through right now. So we have to take some ownership in what we can do to help prevent crime. And it's always been this way. If a car's been stolen, then we hope that the police department can find that car. But in the past, police departments, even before COVID, I don't know if you might remember a few years back up in South Burlington, there was these guys, they were going to all the malls, all the shops in the parking lots, just opening doors and pulling stuff, and they hit hundreds of vehicles. And it wasn't a massive crime wave per se. It was like 3 guys doing this. And because people are leaving their stuff unlocked, and that was pre-pandemic, that was pre all this other escalation. We now have a very severe drug crisis. We have a very severe crisis around unhoused individuals. There is some overlap, but not every person who's unhoused is suffering from substance use disorder. We're starting to use the term SUD now, substance use disorder. Sometimes you see OUD, opioid use disorder. So we do have some overlap, because if you do suffer from SUD, that can really destabilize your life, right? You can't hold a job, you can't pay your bills, and you end up on the street, certainly. But we have people, if people are not following what's been going on with the motel program, please do so, because when they threw out the first group of people, and that's what they did, they threw out people onto the street. We had a meeting, and myself and my fellow progressives were like, we need a camping strategy, because we already had camping in the city. Anyone going down to Waterfront Park has known for the last few years, we've had camping in the city. We knew it was going to increase. We knew this because Governor Scott, he's talking about the fact that state agencies are giving out sleeping bags and tents. He knew this. He knew this. Why this guy is so popular, I don't know. But he knew this. And they still through these people. And so the mayor got upset because he didn't want to talk about a camping strategy, because that's kind of scary. You want to sanction camping somewhere? So what we're trying to say is, we have people camping in our parks. Residents are upset about this. Visitors are upset about this. People are using in our parks, dealing in our parks. We're saying we want to maintain our parks for residents and visitors. So we want it very clearly posted that people cannot camp there. And we want to enforce that. But we need to be able to tell people where to go. Otherwise, it's just whack-a-mole. Can't be here, and they go someplace else. Can't be here, you can't be here, you can't be here. And that's what's been happening. The mayor said that we were trying to make camping a housing solution, and nobody ever said that. So there was this pushback. We've never had a camping policy with regards to having an area where we could say people could be on certain city lands, where we could have some type of control over sanitation, people having access to some type of bathrooms, the porta potties, and services, people going down doing services at work. So as soon as they threw the first group out, it was an immediate disaster. It was immediately the increase of people on the street. And then they realized, oh, we can't do that. And then they kind of walked it back, but they didn't do the best job in terms of going back and seeing if they could requalify some individuals. And there was definitely a lot of hardship. I want to give a big shout out to Brenda Siegel. She's an amazing woman who's really been out there in these streets, helping people to the best of the ability. You know, when you don't have an address, it's hard to be like, oh, you didn't fill out this state form. Well, I never got the state form because I didn't
I don't get
know
mail.
what I could do. And so there's a lot of talk now again about the program. So that really increased a lot. So when we go back and we think about public safety, it is not comfortable to see people in this state.
Mhm.
It is not comfortable to see people in our green spaces. Battery Street was a big issue. It is not comfortable. And people get angry, people get upset, but it's not something to necessarily think that police can take care of. Right? It's other agencies and other resources. If these individuals aren't technically breaking the law, then we shouldn't have an expectation that police handle that. So we really have to think about what police can and cannot do. These alternative positions, I don't even want to, they were calling them alternative positions, but we shouldn't. They are now part of our community safety plan.
Yeah.
The CSLs, the community support liaisons, they're fantastic. One of the things I heard as when I first started getting into public safety over and over and over again was that our officers were not prepared for the amount of mental health incidents that they had to do. The incidents that involve mental health, individuals with mental health issues, and
It's gotta be a high percentage.
there is a lot. It's a lot. And there is also, when you talk about the quote unquote repeat offender.
The frequent flyers,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so
What'd you call it?
the frequent flyers.
frequent
Flyers,
flyers,
okay.
yes. So you have that. So to have the CSLs be able to be more engaged, to have the training to work with these individuals.
Not start from square one every time.
Not start from square one every time,
Yeah.
like to know that if you get a call, oh, it's so and so again.
Yeah.
If we
Smith.
get a CSL who was, I'm comfortable with them being in the police department. I know that was kind of controversial for some people who were very concerned about the budget of the department and what would the control be like. I always felt that Lacey Smith, who is the leader of that team, she's fantastic. And Chief Murad has a ton of respect for Lacey Smith, and Lacey Smith's like, I don't have a problem being based here in the department, because in fact, yeah, they have desks, but they're out all the time.
Yeah.
So sometimes they need to be there, they need to do their paperwork, they might need to consult with officers about something. But they have a great deal of doors unlocked. Especially if you live in a building, like you're in a locked building, but you have a garage that people can get into.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of garages under locked buildings that there's access, and garages are places where we see a lot of activity related to drugs. Also, people just sleep in garages because they offer
they offer shelter from the weather, from bad weather. You can go in, we've had hotel guests that have found people sleeping in their cars
Yep.
or have had things taken out of their cars. So one of the most basic things you can do is just lock those doors. If people are able to come into a particular garage and always be able to leave with something, they're gonna keep coming back. But if all the tenants do what they need to do and keep everything locked,
Yeah.
then they'll know that they're not, they'll go someplace else. So that we have to take some responsibility and have an understanding of what police can and cannot do. And even before COVID, even with being fully staffed, certain types of larcenies and break-ins and package taking, these were not things police could prevent because it can't be next to every single one. We don't have that type of money to have that happen. It's a matter of, do you have a safe place for your packages to be left? Is your
Yeah, I
door
don't get
locked?
packages shipped to my home address anymore.
Yeah, if you're not gonna be there, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I think too, we think of all the people have porches, even they're enclosed porches. We leave stuff on our porches all the time. And people are getting bolder as they look for stuff that they could possibly sell or wear.
It does worry me a little bit that sort of line of reasoning is a little bit blaming the victim in some ways.
I understand that people say that, but it doesn't change the fact.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I just like I
Yeah,
lock my doors. I don't ship packages to my house, but you know.
it is something people have to think about. Someone emailed me about they forwarded an email they had received from their building management team that was just outlining all these things, and they were furious.
Yeah.
They were furious, and this is what you have to do because this is a situation.
Well, it's rules
that
for
we're
me,
in.
but not for thee.
But this is what we're in right now.
No, yeah.
And I've lived here for 40 years, but when I first got up here, I was like, crazy, leaving your doors open. I came from New York City. I couldn't imagine, like, what are you talking about? So in some ways, there's things that have been happening in other places.
No, I
and
know.
It's just hitting here now, and it's hitting different. So just being aware of what we can do to help the police department and the fire department
Mhm.
do, because we're part of our own community safety.
Mhm.
So we need the police department is well funded right now.
Mhm.
They've had the increase in salary.
Is the restaffing going well? Like, are we getting people out of the academy? Can we expect to get back up to our officer count anytime soon, or?
Not soon.
Yeah, I guess
Not-
soon in the relative sense.
FY 26
Okay.
is
Hey, for the city of Burlington, that's light speed.
Yeah, so if we go into the meeting overview for the Public Safety Committee last night, and if we scroll down, we should see the chief's report and the police, click on December 23. Although I strongly recommend, this is a very good meeting. I'm sorry, police, thank you. This is an excellent meeting. It was about 3 hours long. We talked about a lot of things. And also because it was the end of the year, we were talking about what happened in 2023. So there's a lot of data. And if you can scroll down, you'll reach a page. It talks about where we are with staffing for the police. Oh, there you go. Right before.
One
Oh,
more.
sorry.
No, that's okay. So this is kind of the sworn officer head count looking at 2015 through 23.
Mhm.
And as you can see on the right, after going all the way down, we are starting to come back. Regretfully, we just lost a lateral transfer. And that was disappointing. What I found interesting was he lived on the Plattsburgh side, and I asked, was that because he couldn't find housing in Burlington? And the chief believe that that was an issue.
Yeah.
We only have one person going into the next academy class. And that was a bit of a disappointed. We expected to have more, but it
Is there a
will.
reason for the expectation in reality, or is it just sort of?
You know, the chief did talk about that a little bit. I think that would be like good to kind of watch that.
Okay.
But the one positive is that the field training officers do need a little bit of a break.
Okay.
Our last graduating class was good. And they are, once you get out of the academy, you can't be by yourself for a while. You have to
Sure,
have that field training. And so we've got a good crew that is going through that right now. And then that'll give a little break to the field training officers, and then hopefully we can get more people into the next one. And if you go to the next page, this gives you the breakdown once you take out anyone who's injured on military or on some sort of leave, the number of supervisors, detectives, the officers at the airport, special assignments, and then marketplace officers. And then this leads to what's left. We've since hired a 6 CSL. So we now are fully staffed there. I would love to see a couple of more because it would be really helpful to have more hours of the day.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's just certain things that happen with people who are known to the CSLs, but they'll happen in the middle of
And
the
I
night.
think this is what confused me when I first saw this number. It's 21 to cover all hours of the week. It is not 21 at one time.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. So it's like 4 on each shift.
Yeah.
And then that once the more recent academy officers that have graduated from the academy are on their own, that will fill out a little bit.
Sure.
But that's a real interesting part of the conversation. So for people to really understand those details, this is a meeting to watch.
Yeah.
These are the reports to take a look at. If you click on the
Excuse me, what is 6 CSOs of 11? Meaning
Oh,
we want to
those-
hire 5 more?
right, we are budgeted for up to 11.
And what is a CSO again?
The community service officers. So they're not sworn officers, but they help patrol.
Okay.
They do, actually, can you go up to we need the priority response plan. Sometimes it's at the top, but this being, okay, you can keep going down. It'll hit. It's not, oh, there we go. Yeah. The revised priority response plan. So this particular page, kind of teeny on the screen, but it's very interesting if you've never looked at it before. So this is telling you all the different types of incidents and what their particular priority is by, are they white, the light blue, or the dark blue? So the priority 1s are the highest, and then 2 and 3 can get stacked. So it tells you what you can expect to get stacked, meaning that it will be answered when an officer is available to answer. So it has the information on the left, and then we have these where you can see these highlighted. It'll say CSO or CSL. These are the types of incidents that can be responded to by these positions. I'd like to have more specific data about the incidents just responded to by those positions. I know they've been increasing as they've been hiring the positions. CSOs, because they've been going to the academy, that's why they're not fully staffed yet, but hopefully that'll continue. So as you scroll down, this gives selected incident reports. It gives you an idea of where we're at year to date, how it compares to other years. Everything related to drug crime has shot up. And actually, if you can go, this is total incident volume. And if you keep going down, yeah. So Valcor, selected Valcor instance. Valcor is essentially the software that is used to track incidents. When we look at overdoses, like look at that 54, 55, 93, 139, 237, 423. We look at stolen vehicles of 24 in 2018 to 299 in 2023. We look at larcenies. These type of things are drug related. And so if we can get the drug situation under control, that's going to be a big thing. So all I'll say is that this is a great report to look at. The fire chief's report, Chief LaChance and the fire department are out there in ways that our public doesn't understand and fully appreciate it. January 23 through October 23, they answered about 40% of the overdose calls on their own. They put a community response team in place where they have a truck with everything they need to go on these type of calls. Also wound care, because people who are taking drugs mixed with xylazine, have you heard about xylazine, the zombie drug, it causes open wounds. And people don't always get the medical care they need, and they can get infections and things like that, but they're out there giving wound care kits out as well. So the fire department's been doing amazing work. So I do recommend this meeting. I just a great deal, because it is almost 3 hours, but this is a meeting where I think all Burlingtonians should watch the full 3 hours, because we're talking about the past year. We're getting a lot of data from the fire department and from the police department. We're hearing from both chiefs. It's in a way that you just don't get to do on an average day. And that's why these reports are so important. And it's like data, because people don't know, and here's where you can get some. I always want more data.
Sure.
But here's where you go. Heat maps too. Chief LaChance of the fire department uses heat maps, and those are really important in terms of staffing that community response team, because it's being staffed with overtime, voluntary overtime. So they use the heat maps to make
Are there
a
any surprises
determination.
on the heat map, or is it kind of where you would expect them to be?
I think it's kind of where you expect them to be. And the times that you would expect them to be, just like anybody else. People with SUD, they do have a routine.
Yeah.
You know, it peaks during certain times of the day. It peaks in certain, it happens in certain areas. We know where things are going on. Another meeting that's really important was the October 10th meeting. That was a presentation from the drug unit, the police department's drug unit. You know, we don't have a street crimes unit. That was amazing, because that just explained everything. You don't have a street crimes unit because we don't have the staffing, and the street crimes unit would be the officers who would be taking care of all the open dealing that we have, especially seeing around the City Hall Park area. There was a big bust in the last 2 weeks. A house near King Street, right on King Street. Yeah, it's been causing a lot of businesses in that area grief.
That Church Street house?
No, it was on Church Street. It was on, I want to say St. Paul Street. But it was
right next to the youth center.
It's near the youth center.
Yeah.
It's not, well, there's a couple of things going on in
sorry,
that area.
sure.
Yeah. It's
That's one of the heat map areas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I had a business who, I had Shy Guys, talk about it. And he's like, yeah, just all day, every day, I just look out my window and went down, got some gelato and hung out for a while.
Yeah.
Yep, hand in hand. I recommend that people still, you know, if you see something, use when you go to city's website, click on departments, police department, and there's an online tip area for drug tips. You should use it. You should say what you're seeing. If you're seeing the same type of cars or different cars, and you can take license plates safely.
It's still important to report.
It's still important to report.
Yeah.
One of the things about the cases with regards to the drug cases, and they have been making very significant arrests relating to the dealing that's going on, like really high volume dealing, is they can't tell you what they're working on.
Sure.
They
mean,
can't, they
checks out.
can't compromise a case. But one of the things I did ask for was to get more information after the fact. I think it'd be great to have a page to say, year to date, here are the completed, here are the arrests. They may not be completed because
Yeah.
they're going through the judicial.
Yeah, we hear this
System.
about this backlog all the time,
Yes,
and it's like, where's the log jam?
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, the long jam, so that's interesting. So file online, incident report only for certain things, and then the submit tip on the drug line is a little bit below that. Yes. Submit. There are, so the online incident report, they're changing what is being submitted, like retail theft was going in there.
Yeah.
And it was kind of going into the black hole of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I took a look at that and they just realized that that's not the best way to handle it, that there were things that they weren't able to get to.
Mhm.
And there
well, and a
were,
lot of people don't bother anymore, which is,
and that is sad.
Yeah.
And that is a problem. They don't bother anymore, or they were putting things in bulk.
Yeah.
Chief Murad, he found that frustrating. And I certainly understand why that's frustrating. But the reason it was happening, it was because they weren't getting any response, and if they needed to have it on record.
yeah, and if you've just had a retail theft, you're probably not in a great mood. The last thing you want to do is sit at your laptop and
Right.
write up a little summary of how it happened.
Yeah, and some of the bigger stores, like the stores on Shelburne Road, they, if they have to write it for write-offs, they still cared about what was happening. I personally met with 3 loss prevention officers from TJ Maxx, Home Goods, and Sierra Clothing.
Yeah.
They came here. They were like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Why don't we get a response? We're told to put these online and no one's responding to us. They had the same issue. Ben and Jerry's this year had to close their bathroom
Yeah.
to the public. Same thing. We've got all the people coming out here using in our bathrooms, using these. They have the same concern. So they definitely cared about what happening. Hannaford's on North Avenue is paying for the sheriff department.
Yeah.
To come in. So yeah, we're dealing with that, and we are dealing with things that were being reported, but they weren't coming out of that system.
Yeah.
So if they weren't coming out of that system, then there's no affidavit with supporting evidence, and that's not getting to the state's attorney's office. And I just started really digging into a lot of this because I had a lot of businesses, people in the community coming to me and like, what's happening? I don't hear anything. And we know who did it, and they should.
Well, again,
be
it's
able to-
what, 50 people, 75 people, and they're all fairly well known.
They're well known, and that's it for some of these things. They are well known because
Yeah.
they've been previously trespassed.
Well, the trespass means nothing.
Well, it means nothing, but if you're a business who's had a problem with an individual
Yeah.
and you've previously trespassed them, you can identify them. So if you submit an online report,
Yeah.
say it's this individual, we saw them, we know who they are because they were previously trespassed.
Yeah,
We have.
while you're
pictures, we can-
trespassing them, you got to get their name and their birthday.
Right.
And if you're trespassing someone, they're not inclined to give you that information.
That is true in some cases, but in some cases, people are known.
Yeah.
They are known because they're doing other things, but they can be. One of the frustrations is that you can know who did something, but the incident may sit before it actually gets to the state's attorney.
Yeah.
Right. I've seen significant delays between when something was submitted online versus when the affidavit was sent. So that was valid. The police department has heard that feedback, and they are working on making changes that they need to make to try and improve that. Now, with the SA, Sarah George, who gets blamed for everything, we have a constitution and we have laws in our state.
Yeah, it's a process.
There's a process. There's this little thing called assumption of innocence. And if you have retail theft and you have a delay in something getting to the SA office, well, that person, it's like, hey, I just did this. Nobody's coming to get me.
I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah, might as well.
And I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it again, because nothing initially is getting the essay. Then it gets to the essay. Then the essay files charges, because she's routinely around 3,000 cases.
Yeah, which is
What-
an insane number.
It's an insane number, and it's far, and I've been looking at the data that the court system.
Can we get her
cuts
more
in.
staff? Can we get her more, like, you know?
Well, in terms of what is currently allowed,
Hmm.
her department,
And I realize that may not
She
be the
says
council,
she
that may
doesn't-
be the state.
yeah.
Sorry.
and I mean, and court time too is really hard, like she was saying, no, I've got a murder case, that's gonna take care of all my court time.
Yeah,
And that's going to reduce what we're able to close, because we're not gonna be able to get as many things into court. You know, the more severe cases get the higher priority. In terms of when people, I mean, murder, of course, is
Well, yeah.
the worst thing you can have, but when people are physically assaulted, domestic violence, things
Sure.
like that, they take precedence over. But so you have this delay, then you have people going out doing the same thing, and then that's why people don't think anything's being done, because even when she gets the case, shoplifting case, larceny case, these are non-violent.
yeah,
And the way our system works is people aren't held for that. Drugs are considered nonviolent.
drug use and drug distribution, or,
Distribution, it's not considered, so it's very interesting, and I had a question about, well, can we push everything to the US attorney? Because at the US attorney level, they can do some things that are different, like they can hold people in a way that you can't hold them at a state level.
sure,
You know, there's definitely some of the frustration she had submitted. It's like if you arrest someone and they have a gun, we know we've had a lot of gunfire incidents over the past few years related to drugs.
Yeah.
So having a gun is a nexus to violence. But if you didn't use a gun, but you had a gun, it's still non-violent.
yeah.
And then how long can you hold somebody?
There was
Right?
that guy
If
that
you-
assaulted a police officer in the parking lot of the police department. And I was like, they're committing crimes before they even hit the sidewalk.
Recently, as part of my really trying to understand all of this, I attended a legislative hearing. I zoomed in. Sometimes you have to be there, but other times you can zoom in. And the Orleans County, I think it was Orleans County. Is there Orleans County down south?
Yeah.
Their essay, she had a guy, 7 open cases, violent, threatening officers, I think he threatened the officer's daughter, because this guy's daughter was in the same
Jesus
school, the
Christ.
author's daughter, threatening to rape people. And the way the state currently does things is there's a higher priority placed on if someone is likely to flee, not necessarily the public safety of people. Is someone likely to flee? Now, this guy, he would
That's
hang out in his community and terrorize people. It was really insane. It was, and that's when the gentleman who manages is for the local Hannaford's here, and he was talking about, like, I think $10,000 a month on our sheriff's department.
Yeah,
Why do we have to be expected to hold these? And then I'm like listening to some of this stuff around why people can be held and why they can't be held, and
so that's an
And
issue with
what's-
Montpelier, though.
it's an issue with our statutes and stuff. And
Yeah.
then I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is crazy, it's progressive, and then everybody laughed.
Yeah.
But it was like, because supposedly, for instance, we just think people should be running wild, but this was all very interesting to me, and because you can't, and even if you do hold somebody on bail, I understand like eliminating cash bail, because cash bail just holds poor people. And even when you give bail to a major person who's dealing huge quantities of drugs, they're the ones with the cash.
Yeah.
They've got the money. So you just want to be able to hold them. But the judges determine like the conditions, and some of the essays run into that. You know, we had an essay, I think, up in Grand Isle. You know, he was trying to get someone put away, but the judge was like, well, they're in this program now. And so the judge was looking to say that this person may be getting over this, but they had done significant harm in the community.
So there was that disagreement and the essay was overruled. So there's the type of things that are going on. You know, we don't have, you can't charge someone for actually stealing a car.
It's insane to me.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things. So those two community forums that occurred in December, people need to watch them. There's a lot of information in there. And I want to work on a third one that's going to concentrate more on harm reduction and also on the things the fire department is doing.
Yeah. I guess that we're kind of coming to the
Sure.
issue. Well, so, but I guess my question to wrap this up is like, what's within the city's power to do? You know, like I realize a lot of the issues probably reside in Montpelier and with the state legislature. But like, you know, what can we actually accomplish?
I
on a
believe
city
our
level?
voices are really important. And I think that people complain online, they'll post, but they won't email people. We need to be emailing Governor Scott's office. We can have enforcement, but we must have harm reduction resources. And we don't have anywhere near enough harm reduction resources. We do not have recovery on demand. We don't have detox beds should be some of the simplest things you can offer someone. Even to someone who's remember alcoholics, remember we used to be concerned about alcoholics. Alcoholics are still out there and they have a high percentage of, you know, getting them into recovery. But if you're alcoholic and you're right, you can't get a detox bed. Everybody's waitlisted. And that is a huge problem. We are not keeping up with what is happening. There is in the community and in our government, one of my biggest problems with our governor is that he doesn't really want to try anything new.
Mhm.
He wants to only do things that are proven. But what we're facing now with fentanyl and xylazine and all this other stuff is different. It's different. So back in the day when Governor Shumlin did his State of the State address, remember that? It was all about the opioid epidemic. This is the biggest thing facing the state. We have to be focused on it. We have to do things differently because what we did before didn't work. Governor Scott doesn't think that way. And that is a problem for us. But we are getting millions of dollars in opioid settlement funds. That money needs to be released faster. You can't even plan to get up programs if you don't have that money. So that needs to be replaced faster. The city has been doing, we do have people that are lobbying for us. We did have a legislative luncheon yesterday. I used my PTO and I went down to Montpelier, but we're trying to get our legislators on the same page.
Because we need facilities, we need like staff, we need, like, it's gonna be expensive.
It's going to be expensive and we're getting millions and millions of dollars from the opioid settlement fund and that committee's not moving that money fast enough.
No. But with a
There,
facility and personnel, millions of dollars evaporates quickly.
yeah. We need an overdose prevention center.
Mhm.
When Ben and Jerry's closed their bathrooms, part of their press release related to that was to say Burlington needs this. We need this. And if the legislator makes the necessary changes so that they can be opened, and we're not the first ones to open it, I will be just crying in the streets, you know, because Brattleboro wants one. I think Rutland wants one. We need it. And people have these outdated notions that it's enabling, that it's permissive, right? We're in this permissive society. Permission, who's giving permission? Are you getting permission?
No.
Are you getting permission? Like if someone walked up to you and said, can
Who's
I?
giving permission to City Hall Park?
Should I- who's giving permission? No one is giving permission. No one is enabling. People think needle exchange programs are enabling. It drives me crazy. We've known since HIV that people who share needles or reuse dirty needles, that's a high risk factor for HIV and now hepatitis B and C. It adds a whole nother issue to our already overburdened health system. It's crazy up at the medical center, crazy up in the ER. They are overwhelmed. And
Would
so
the
the
prevention center go up at the hospital, or would it be?
it has become a de facto primary care for
Yeah.
a lot of individuals.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
guess you know, in this hypothetical, is the safe injection site or whatever term we're using. Is it gonna go up at the hospital? Is it gonna be
I would rather
in
have
City
it-
Hall Park?
it needs to be near City Hall Park. That's a good question, right? We have to get the laws changed so we can have it.
Yeah,
And then we need the funding, and then we can properly plan for it. But what there was an excellent presentation from a woman who runs On Point, which is Overdose Prevention Center in New York City. We also heard from people who work with the one in Vancouver,
Mhm.
and they have been collecting data. What was great about On Point was she talked about how they work with their local law enforcement. Technically, they're operating illegally, right? Because the laws haven't come up. Their DA knows they're there. The police in the area know they're there, but the police understand that what they're doing is helping.
Yeah. it's making their jobs
So,
easier.
Exactly. So they had examples of interactions they have with their law enforcement and how they work together. And if law enforcement picks someone up that they know is associated with the center, they'll actually bring them to the center. And just the idea of controlling what some people politely call syringe litter, you know, the needles that are everywhere. If you
Yeah.
can get someone to come in, then you're controlling where needles are being left. You're forming a relationship with them. Is someone gonna come in and on the first time, have a great experience and be like, yes, I want recovery? It's not gonna happen that way.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a lot of interactions. It's gonna take trust. It's going to take treating people like they're humans again.
Yeah,
But
we gotta give them an off ramp.
you gotta give them an off ramp. You've got to let them know in order to get someone back into the community. To be a functional member of our community, they have to know that someone cares about them. Just, you know, I don't give people money, but like if after a meeting, I might go into the pizza shop on Main Street. Someone's sitting there, they want money, I might come out with an extra slice of pizza.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I don't give money because I don't know where that money's going to get spent. Yeah. But I'll give somebody some food. But just, and then there's, oh, thank you so much. You know, people, just some basic kindness. I think we're losing our people are so burnt out over what's happening. We're forgetting to be kind. We're forgetting there by the grace of God. That could, you know, that could be me, that could be a family. Someone at our meeting last night talked about an issue that they're having with a family member that they love.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are in that situation, but we need an overdose prevention center. People need to really rally for that, and people really need to eliminate any just old-fashioned these ideas that it's permissive, this ideas that it's going to increase crime. It can do so much for us, and we are in that point. And if you don't have anything else, then why are you against it? So we really have to, so you can call me, you can email me, and if you want to sit down and have tea and talk about it, I will. But I really think that is really important. Shout out to Joe McGee. He gets a lot of crap online, and that's because everyone is so focused on enforcement. He's been trying to bring people back to the harm reduction side, because if we can't stop people from using, we will always have people coming to sell to them. Period. Full stop. Harm reduction has to be part of the picture. It has to be.
Very quick,
we-
I'm happy to continue this, but I think we should let our very kind city staff maybe.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so.
Watch the meetings. You can
Yeah.
get to the meetings. You can watch the meetings. It's so much information in the meetings. And that's one of the complaints I get a lot. People don't know what's going on. You have those reports that you can look at and listen to those conversations. And thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for coming and for that presentation. Thank you for coming. And we hope to join Ward 1 again someday soon. I
Good.
imagine. And thank you to city staff. Thank you.
Okay.
Meeting is adjourned.